Hey friends, today we are taking a trip down memory lane. We are going to be going down memory lane to revisit one of the craziest cases out there and one of the craziest women criminals we know. Let's wait a minute. Does anybody know who we're talking about? Have you guessed it yet? Waiting. Some of you probably already did guess it. And it's Jodi Arias. Now, the reason that we are going back to this case is there have actually been brand new updates as of very, very recently. As if we didn't think her crazy could get any crazier or that her crazy couldn't be exposed any more than it already has been. It is. It is, and we're going to talk about it. Now, if you have no clue who Jodi Arias is, let me just break this down for you. Hold on, I'm just going to get comfy with you guys because we're just going to talk true crime, hang out. Let me break down who this chick is. Jodi Arias is a blonde, bombshell, beautiful woman, and she captured the heart of successful and charming Travis Alexander. She was his kryptonite and had a hold on him unlike any other. And Travis wanted to make her his wife, but as time went on, he saw the red flags flying and began to distance himself from her. And Jodi could not handle this, and what she did to this poor man is truly despicable. Jodi is known for her master manipulation skills, and these skills did not end with the murder investigation. She carried it through her time in jail, and recently, two former cellmates of Jodi's have come forward with the truth about not only what kind of person Jodi Arias is, but things that she admitted to in jail about the crime. So buckle up because we are going to be here for a while today, guys, and we are going to cover the heinous murder of Travis Alexander, the investigation, the court proceedings, as well as the new details from Jodi's cellmates and them just completely spilling the tea on the truth of who this monster woman truly is. Hey guys, I'm Annie Elise. This is 10 to Life. Listen when I say buckle up. We're gonna dive right in. Today's video is sponsored by Rocket Money. Now guys, I've been thinking about the future a lot lately, particularly the future of my kids and making sure that they will be well taken care of in the event that one day I'm not here. And with that, I know that I got to get my finances in check. Chef's kiss on my wallet. But I am not good when it comes to math or tracking things at all. So I'm so happy to have discovered Rocket Money. Rocket Money is an all-in-one personal finance platform that helps you save more and spend less. Now they offer tons of amazing features, guys, but the one that I'm currently focusing on is the feature to help grow my net worth. Rocket Money gives you a clear picture of your net worth, including your cash, any debts, investments, 401ks you have, you name it. It's all right there. And in addition to being able to see it all in one spot, Rocket Money shows you how it's trending over time. So you know if you need to make any changes or move money around to better protect it. Rocket Money also monitors your credit score for you and has complete access to your credit report and your history. So they will alert you of any important changes that impact your credit score and even offer you insights on ways to improve your score, which, let's just be honest, we could all use a healthy credit score. To try it out for free and unlock even more features with premium, head to rocketmoney.com/10tolife or click the link in the video description. It is so easy and really has helped me so much. I know I've talked about it on here before, guys, but it really is great. So make sure to check out rocketmoney.com/10tolife to start managing your personal finances today. Travis Alexander was born on July 29, 1977 to Pamela and Gary Alexander in Riverside, California. Travis's life did not have an easy start. Both of his parents struggled with addiction and leaving him and his 6 siblings to basically fend for themselves. Travis remembered his mom sleeping for days on end while the kids tried their best to make meals with what was left in the kitchen, which often was only canned soup and spoiled food. So at age 10, he and his siblings went to live with their paternal grandmother. She was a Mormon and introduced the children to the Mormon faith. Travis took his newfound faith very seriously, studying as much as he possibly could. as well as attending church constantly. And as he grew up, he remained loyal to his faith, and upon graduating high school, he went on his first mission trip. This was a 2-year trip to Denver, Colorado. After his mission trip, he ended up moving to Mesa, Arizona, which is not too far from Phoenix and is known for its desert, hot climate. It's said that Travis moved here due to the much larger Mormon community in this particular area. Travis landed a job with Prepaid Legal Services, which was a multi-level marketing company and is now known as Legal Shield. And in case you didn't know, in the Mormon community, multi-level marketing or direct sales is actually pretty huge. So by the time Travis was just 29 years old, he had made a pretty decent life for himself. He was good looking, making decent money. I would say he was pretty successful. He had a lot of friends and it just came pretty naturally to him. He was a charming guy and also quite the flirt. And even though Travis was a devout Mormon, he struggled greatly with the belief that sex should only happen within marriage. Travis actually had a pretty active sex life, and it was done in secrecy to avoid judgments from others within his Mormon community. It was very important to him that people still believed that he was a virgin. Due to his success in his career, he was able to buy his very first home and rented out 2 of the rooms to some friends. While working for this company, Travis also found a passion for motivational speaking. And this is also when he met a woman who would lead him to his demise, Jodi Arias. Jodi Ann Arias was born on July 9, 1980 to William and Sandra Arias. She was born in Salinas, California. Jodi was the oldest of 3 children, and from the looks of it, had a somewhat normal upbringing. Her father owned a restaurant, and they grew up in a very middle-class environment. Her parents practiced Christianity, however, Jodi never really showed an interest, nor was she ever really religious at all. They had no real major life-altering events happen in her early life that we know of, other than what Jodi has claimed, which is that she had suffered from extreme physical assaults from age 7 and on. She has stated that she was regularly beaten with belts and wooden spoons, but of course, her parents pretty much completely denied this, and they also deny pretty much everything she has ever said about them. But let's continue. Jodi was a good student in school until she started to become a bit rebellious in her teen years. In middle school, Jodi's parents caught her trying to smoke some Mary Jane, which she was hiding in a Tupperware container on her roof. Her parents decided to search her room, and this really upset Jodi. Her parents even ended up calling the police on her. She wrote in her diary often about how her personal space was violated by her parents. Jodi's mother claims that Jodi always seemed to have a boyfriend, and that she would just jump from relationship to relationship without any breaks in between. She was totally boy crazy. The family moved to a new town when Jodi was in high school, and this really upset Jodi. She wrote in her diary about how out of place she felt and how alone she was. Jodi's parents described her as an extremely intelligent girl, but also a bit strange. Her father stated that he believed that she was likely bipolar because one minute she would be happy, and then the next, something would set her off and she would fly into a fit of rage. He also stated that she was extremely verbally vulgar towards her mother, and that she was the kind of person who never took responsibility for her actions. There was a lot of tension in her teen years between Jodi and her parents, and as Jodi grew more into her teen years, her relationship with her parents grew more and more rocky, and eventually, Jodi just decided to leave home. She went to Eureka Union High School, but dropped out in 11th grade and earned her GED. She went off to be a photographer and with the dreams to make it a full-time job. Jodi always had a camera with her at all times, and she loved to document everything that she saw, which is actually really ironic in this case, and we're going to get there soon. In 2001, Jodi became a server at a California restaurant located at the Ventana Inn and Spa in Carmel. While she was working there, she met the restaurant's food and beverage manager, Daryl Brewer. They began to fall for each other and began dating in 2003. And eventually, after dating for a while, Jodi and Daryl bought a home in Palm Desert, California, where they split the mortgage and each paid $2,800 a month. Jodi was still doing photography and working at the restaurant, but she decided to get another job and landed a position as a saleswoman for Prepaid Legal Services, the same company that Travis had worked for. But once Jodi started working for this company, her relationship with Daryl began to deteriorate, and their declining financial situation did not help the situation at all. So the two of them decided to part ways but remain friends. Then in September of 2006, prepaid legal shield held a work conference in Las Vegas, where the company sent a bunch of their employees to an all-expenses-paid work convention. At the convention, they would network with other salesmen, attend different speaking events, and get hyped up to go out and sell more. It was basically your typical MLM convention. One of the nights during this convention, there was a big banquet being held for the members, and this is where Travis and Jodi first met. People who attended stated that there was pretty much an immediate connection between the two, and very shortly after this, the two began a very sexual relationship with one another. They spent a lot of time traveling the country together, and because of this, they became very close very quickly. When they were not together, they remained in constant contact with daily phone calls and email exchanges. They were pretty much talking all the time, and these conversations included a lot of sexual conversations and frequently even phone sex. The more time that Travis started to spend with Jodi, the more he started to see potential wife material in her. He was very into Jodi and even wrote messages to all of his friends about how unbelievable she was and how anyone would be so lucky to have her as their wife. The only thing that wasn't perfect in this is that because Travis was Mormon, he had always pictured himself having a Mormon wife. So he began to talk to Jodi about the Mormon faith and getting her involved in the church. But of course, Jodi would do just about anything that Travis asked of her. So she was more than happy to oblige in this. On November 26, 2006, Jodi ended up getting baptized into the Mormon church, and Travis was the one to baptize her. This was a huge gesture. It's not every day that someone completely converts their faith for another person, but that's what Jodi did. When someone converts to Mormonism, they have to have a sponsor. So Travis acted as her sponsor, which meant he was pretty much responsible for her and her development into the faith. This was also a turning point for the relationship, because now their relationship didn't have to be so hush-hush anymore. Other Mormons would not frown upon Travis now that he was dating a Mormon girl. So in February of 2007, Jodi moved to Mesa, Arizona to be even closer to Travis. And for a while, it was going really well. Their relationship was more hot and heavy than ever without the bounds of the distance holding them back. However, Travis began to see some red flags with Jodi. He even slowly started to distance himself away from the relationship, questioning if Jodi was the one he actually wanted to spend the rest of his life with anymore or not. Without that excitement of traveling the country together and the buildup of seeing each other and then just transitioning to living a normal, everyday kind of mundane life, he began to see just how possessive and controlling she really was over him. In June of 2007, he decided to break off the relationship with her completely and move on. But Jodi was determined to get Travis back. She even took the approach of saying, okay, well, we can just be friends with benefits, to try to control the situation, trying to say, oh, we'll just be friends, but still kind of like have your hand in it a little bit, which, I'm embarrassed to say I've done this in my past when I was younger too, being like, oh no, I'll be the cool girl, we'll just be friends. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, no, he'll realize how great I really am. He'll realize how much he misses me. Word to women, word to the wise, that's not how it works. And I needed a hard dose of the movie He's Just Not That Into You. So if you ever find yourself in that situation, guys, watch the movie, read the book, do something. He's just not that into you. So anyways, this was working because Travis was, very overly sexual and always loved having sex. So he, of course, decided to keep hooking up with her, even though they were very clearly no longer in a relationship. Jodi was trying to prove to him that she could be everything that he wanted while trying to seduce him as much as possible. She would even sneak into his house late at night naked and crawl into bed with him, clearly just using sex as a tool to keep him hooked on her. And just as Travis referred to her, she was truly his kryptonite. Travis was clearly only using Jodi for sex at this point, and even started to see other girls. Now, as you can imagine, Jodi did not like this. She raged with jealousy, and at this point, she began to stalk Travis. Travis had actually gotten a new girlfriend at this point as well, named Lisa Andrews. Lisa was the first girl that he officially began to date after Jodi. Jodi watched from a distance when they would hang out, and on one occurrence, she walked up to Lisa's house where Lisa and Travis were hanging out and rang the doorbell. When they went to answer the door, nobody was there, but they saw that all of their tires on both of their vehicles were slashed. A truly psychotic person. She obviously didn't have access to his house anymore, so she would resort to crawling in through the doggy door to get access to him. Which I just gotta say, Jodi girl, that is ultra embarrassing. Ultra embarrassing. You're literally crawling on all fours to get in the house to stalk this man. Like, it's time to have some self-reflection and a bit of dignity. Pick yourself up off the literal floor and check yourself. And this is when Travis started to feel worried about the situation as well. If you didn't see the red flags before, they are certainly waving loud and proud now. He saw how relentless she was and recognized the intensity that she was coming at him with. She was coming in hot. He even told a friend at church one Sunday, "Don't be surprised if one of these Sundays I don't show up and you find me dead someplace." And Jodi kept going. She would constantly annoy him and send him and the women that he was dating threatening emails. Travis began to talk to his friends about everything that Jodi was doing and confide in them about the situation. They were all aware of just how crazy she was being. Yet shockingly, Travis continued to hook up with her on the side. Now, in no way am I trying to say that like he deserved this or walked into it, but if you're noticing that somebody's a little obsessed with you and that they're stalking you and that they're slashing your tires, I'm guessing, just my guess, personal opinion here, it's probably not the best idea to continue putting the P in the G. It's time to distance yourself, physically and emotionally. So eventually in 2008, Jodi ended up relocating to Eureka, California to live with her grandparents. And April of 2008 was the last time that Jodi claims she was with Travis. I can only imagine at that point the breath of fresh air that Travis must have felt, knowing that this crazy psychopath was now a 15-hour drive away from him. Finally, he can date, he can breathe in peace, even though she's not accessible for sex like he wished. He could, he's got both hands, like, you can figure it out. On May 28th, 2008, Jodi's grandparents called the police, though, and they called to report that their handgun was stolen, along with some cash and electronics. When the police were investigating this so-called burglary, they noticed that it didn't really add up to what a typical burglary would look like. There was money laying around that would have definitely been taken if it was a true burglary. It seemed like the motive of the burglary was just to get the gun. And looking back, it definitely seemed like Jodi may have staged that entire situation just to get her hands on that gun. So on June 2nd, 2008, a few days after the gun went missing, Jodi rented a car in Redding, California, and decided to take a road trip. Her very first stop on the road trip was on June 3rd, and this was to visit that ex-boyfriend, Daryl Brewer. And while she was there, she asked to borrow 2 gas cans. She then left Northern California and drove to Southern California to meet up with some friends, and then arrived in Salt Lake City, Utah on June 5th at 11 a.m. And this was to meet with a guy named Ryan Burris. Ryan stated that Jodi seemed very normal, other than her hair was now dyed brown, and she had a couple cuts on her fingers, of which Jodi chopped it up to just being from waitressing. He and Jodi had met 2 months earlier at a work convention in Oklahoma. They began talking on the phone 3 to 5 times a week and made plans to finally meet up. So she agreed to drive to meet him at his home in Utah and hang out. Ryan stated that they ended up in bed together, but because they are both Mormons, he didn't want their makeout session to go too far. Meanwhile, back in Mesa, Arizona, Mimi Hall, Travis's friend, was getting pretty worried about Travis. She and Travis were supposed to go on a work retreat to Cancun together, and she hadn't heard anything from him in the last 5 days, which is pretty weird, right? You would think if you had this big trip like this coming up, you'd be communicating, planning, talking about it, but nothing. It was radio silent from Travis. On June 9th, the night before they were supposed to go, Mimi decided to go to his house and knock on the door, but there was no answer. However, she could see Travis's dog through the window, so that made her even more worried. She called one of her friends, and the friend and friend's boyfriend drove over to Travis's house to figure out what was going on. The 3 of them contacted another friend who gave them Travis's garage door code, and they ended up entering his home through the garage. When they opened the door, they smelled something truly awful. They began walking back to Travis's room, but the door was locked, and they were getting increasingly worried. Now, this next part is a bit weird to me, and it really doesn't even make much sense to me. But Travis's roommate, Zach Billings, was also in the house, back in his room. So did he not smell this awful smell that they did? They started talking to Zach about what was going on and asked him if he knew anything. Zach stated that he and the other roommate, Enrique, hadn't seen Travis in about a week, and they thought that he had actually already left for Cancun. Zach quickly found the spare key to Travis's room to figure out what was going on, why was it locked, what's this smell, why is everybody worried, where's Travis? And when they opened the door, they were all truly shocked. One of the girls stayed back as the rest entered the room and witnessed pools of blood near the bathroom. Upon entering the bathroom, they saw Travis, who was clearly dead, balled up in the fetal position on the floor of the shower. There was blood everywhere. Travis had stab wounds all over him as well. On his face, his neck, his back, his chest. It was a truly gruesome scene. So the friends called 911, and let's listen to that call.
What's going on?
A friend of ours is dead in his bedroom. We hadn't heard from him for a while. We think he's dead. His roommate just went in there and said there's lots of blood. I didn't go in, but I can give you the phone to someone who went in there.
Yes, please, can you?
Hello.
Hi, so what's going on?
He's dead. He's in his bedroom.
Okay.
In the shower.
Okay. How did this happen? Do you have any idea?
No, we have no idea. Everyone's been wondering about him for a few days.
She said that there was blood. So is it coming from his head? Did he cut
No,
his head?
it's all over the place.
Is there any weapons around?
I don't know. Not that I saw.
How many people are in the house?
How many are in the house right now? Just the 5 of us? 5 of us.
Okay, I need all of you outside.
Okay.
Hold on just a moment. Okay, you're a good friend of Travis's, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has he been depressed at all? Thinking about committing suicide, anything like that?
I don't think he's been thinking he committed suicide. He's been really depressed because he broke up with this girl, and he was all upset about that. But I don't think he would actually kill himself over that.
Has he been threatened by anyone recently?
Yes, he has. Okay. He has an ex-girlfriend that's been bothering him and following him and slashing tires and things like that.
And do you know the ex-girlfriend's name?
Do you remember it? Yeah. What's his ex-girlfriend's name? Ask Taylor.
And do you know if he's ever reported it to the police?
Her name is Jodi.
It's pretty clear that they were all in complete shock. Police and paramedics arrived at the scene, as well as Maricopa County detectives and the district attorney, Juan Martinez, to all access the scene. Based on the initial reports, it sounded like it could have been Travis taking his own life. However, the extent of his injuries would tell a completely different story. Travis's throat had been cut from ear to ear, and so deep that he had pretty much almost been decapitated. He also had a gunshot wound to the right side with a .25 caliber gun, and this is in addition to multiple stab wounds. A crime scene and a body that clearly, in my opinion, shows signs of overkill. Now, there have been conflicting reports over the number of stab wounds. Some reports say 29 and some say 27. Maricopa medical examiner Dr. Kevin Horn would later testify that Travis's jugular vein, his common carotid artery, and his windpipe had all been slashed. His hands also had defensive wounds. He further testified that Travis may have been dead at the time that the gunshot was inflicted. So this now was clearly a homicide. Not only a homicide, but potential overkill, crime of passion, multiple different weapons used. It was a mess. Juan Martinez has stated that Travis's body was so mangled and mutilated that they had a hard time even figuring out what injury it was that ultimately killed him. There was blood everywhere, and they had even found a bloody handprint on one of the walls. Travis's body was removed from the scene for analysis. They performed hair samples and took fingerprints. On the floor, located near one of the sinks in his bathroom, they found a spent .25 caliber round, and this confirmed to detectives that there was a gun involved. What was more clear to them was that Travis's body had been there for a while due to the level of decomposition, and this was because of the fact that his body was actually starting to mummify. Once detectives established the crime scene, they began to look around and notice that it appeared that part of the crime scene was actually cleaned up. They noticed that the bedding from Travis's bed was missing and that his body almost looked as if somebody tried to clean him off in the shower. They also noted that there was no forced entry, which indicated that this had to have been done by somebody that Travis knew, as opposed to a stranger. Obviously, the first people that police questioned were the roommates, And like many others, police had a really hard time understanding why they didn't smell his decomposing body earlier. However, both roommates were eventually cleared. When police tried to find Travis's bedding, they opened up his washing machine, where they found clothes, towels, and a digital camera, almost as if someone was trying to destroy this camera. The camera wouldn't turn on, but the SD card was still in it. However, if you know anything about SD cards, you know that they usually still work after being ran through the wash. So whoever was trying to damage this SD card obviously didn't know that. Also, there are so many other ways to for sure destroy an SD card, but whoever did this could have just taken it with them too and hidden it that way. Throwing it in the wash was just clearly a dumb idea. And so obviously finding this SD card was a huge piece of evidence for the team. Now, strangely, Jodi actually reached out to detectives to offer any assistance into the death of her friend Travis after she was notified. And it was noted that she was acting as if she was devastated to hear the news of Travis. She even made a MySpace post memorializing him and talking about how heartbroken she was over his passing. Now, she probably would have thought that this would throw off suspicion that she was perhaps involved somehow, but Jodi was already very high up on law enforcement's radar. When talking to Detective Flores, he asked her what she had heard so far about the case. Jodi stated that she had heard that Travis passed away and that there was a lot of blood. She told Detective Flores that she and Travis had begun dating in 2006, but that they had broken up recently and that the breakup was mutual. She stated that the last time she had seen him was April of 2008 before she moved back to California to live with her grandparents. She had an alibi for the time of the murders as well, which was that road trip that she was on, and she stated that Travis did not want her to go on this road trip for whatever reason it was and that they had been arguing, so she wanted to steer clear of Arizona completely, trying to make it clear that she was never even in Arizona. She even left Travis a voicemail 6 hours after the time he was suspected to have been murdered, which was on June 4th, 2008 at 11:37 p.m.
I know Leslie called you, so I already talked to her, so you can call her back if you want, but it's not necessary. My phone died, so I wasn't getting back to anybody. And what else? Oh, and I drove 100 miles in the wrong direction, over 100 miles, thank you very much. So yeah, remember New Mexico? It was a lot like that, only you weren't here to prevent me from going into the 3 digits, so fun. Tell you all about that later. Also, we were talking about, when we were talking about your upcoming travels my way, I was looking at the May calendar, so I'm all confused. But Heather and I are going to see Othello on July 1st, and we would love for you to accompany us. I don't know when Team Freedom's event is, though, but, you know, it's on the list, so we could do Shakespeare, Crater Lake, and the coast. So if you can make it. If not, we'll just do the coast and Crater Lake. But let me know, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Clearly just trying to make it look like everything was normal and that she thought that Travis was still alive and well and everything is, hunky-dory. But listening to that voicemail, I can't help but notice how shaky her voice sounds. She was talking so fast and almost giving too much detail. I don't know, maybe I've heard too many of these calls or something. It just feels very fake to me. Almost as if she was driving down the road and was like, you know what's a good idea? If I call Travis and leave him a voicemail to make it seem like I'm not involved at all. Which, maybe that's just my jaded opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Tell me in the comments. On June 12th, 2008, detectives asked several friends of Travis's for DNA and fingerprint samples in order to assist in the investigation. Jodi and many others complied and submitted their samples. 2 of the people who partook in this were Chris and Scott Hayes. Travis had worked with this couple and they were very much a role model to Travis. When the police asked them if they thought anyone would have had a reason to murder him, they both said yes, that Jodi Arias would. Now at this point, it's pretty obvious that Jodi is becoming their main suspect. So law enforcement begins to tear into her alibi and look deeper into her background. However, there was still a lot of confusion because she did have an alibi. So they actually began to lean away from her for a little while, until that SD card from the washing machine came back from the crime lab. The photos were able to be recovered despite Jodi deleting them originally, and the photos that were recovered is what essentially turned this case around completely and finally started creating some momentum. The photos recovered were a series of photos from the final moments of Travis's life. They created a complete minute-by-minute timeline that allowed investigators to follow from the timestamps that were included. In these photos, it showed Jodi and Travis both in sexually suggestive poses at approximately 1:40 p.m. on June 4th, 2008. The last photo of Travis alive was taken while he was in the shower at 5:29 p.m., and that was the same day. Moments later, images appear of an individual believed to be Travis profusely bleeding on the floor. Investigators are now sure that without a reasonable doubt that Jodi Arias was involved in Travis's murder. This kind of evidence in a case is almost unheard of. So investigators continued digging into her alibi and her statements when they noticed something huge. After talking to her ex-boyfriend, they learned that Jodi had asked to borrow those 2 gas cans when she was with him. So they came to the realization that Jodi needed these gas cans so that she could travel through the state of Arizona without stopping for gas at all and creating a paper trail. And this ends up being a huge point in the case because this showed that this was clearly a premeditated crime. But meanwhile, Jodi is holding on to her lie that she was never even in Arizona, even though there was nearly a 20-hour time gap unaccounted for, as well as timestamp photos showing her at Travis's house. So when they first bring Jodi in for interrogation, she is very upset, visibly upset. She is saying there's no way that she could ever be involved and is upset that they are even questioning her.
And on paper. And even if there's still 20 some odd hours, even if you pulled over to sleep a couple of times.
Oh, did I tell you that I got stranded?
Yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned that. If you slept for 10 hours,
I only slept for about 8
here and
hours.
here, it would still leave 18 some odd hours for something else. Okay. This is what people are focusing on, is this trip that you took. Because they're saying she left, she didn't get to till Thursday. Wednesday? That's when Travis was killed.
I did not go near his house. Aren't there?
I pulled your cell records. Your cell phone was turned off between here and here. Okay? But the last place it pulled it was here. The next place it turned on was here. What does that show me?
Oh, well, oh, no.
Is there plenty of time for you to do that? Yes. And do I believe that you had come to visit Travis? Yes. I truly believe it. Did you have the opportunity? Yes. You were traveling alone. There's no other witnesses. Your phone just happened to turn off from here to here.
Well, I didn't turn it off physically, but it died.
And then it magically, you found your charger here?
It was packed under the seat of the passenger side. And it was when I was...
When you were lost, you couldn't have maybe pulled over and found it? Or...
Well, I did finally start looking when I was stranded. I wouldn't have pulled over when I was lost.
Okay, I've been focusing on this and going over and over my mind.
Absolutely not. I was nowhere near Mesa. I was nowhere near Phoenix. I wasn't even close to him.
What if I could show you proof you were there? Would that change your mind?
I wasn't there.
Be honest with me, Jodi.
I was not at Travis's house.
25 auto just happens to be the same caliber as the weapon used to kill him.
A 25 auto was used to kill Travis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, along with multiple stab wounds. Jodi, if you want, I can show you some pictures of him. Do you want to see pictures of him?
Part of me does and part of me doesn't.
Why, because you don't want to remember?
No,
Jodi.
There's a morbid curiosity.
Jodi.
I wanted to know how he died.
We can keep playing these games over and over again. I'm not going to believe you.
The interrogation goes on, and she continuously denies being with Travis and states that the timestamps could be altered, blah, 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 blah. Just really reaching for anything she can. She's obviously stressed now and starting to realize that the jig is up and that she needs to change her story. Her timeline is no longer making sense, and it starts changing and evolving as the detectives are interrogating her. And this interrogation footage goes on for hours and hours. It's all on YouTube, so if you want to check it out, I will link it below. In this interrogation, she also starts acting very bizarre, doing headstands, singing, talking to herself. It is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. And this footage is really what brought this case into the limelight and made it as famous as it is today.
You should have at least done your makeup, Jodi. Gosh. You breathe. I wonder how am I still here? And I don't wanna move.
Her behavior is bizarre. Was she doing this to make herself seem more innocent? Was she having a mental break? Some people even speculated early on that she was doing this because she was planning to try to get an insanity plea. But honestly, I think that she is just truly a nutcase. So she ends up getting arrested. They change her into that jail jumpsuit and bring her back in for more interrogation. And now she starts coming up with a new game plan. The wheels are turning for Jodi. Now Jodi says that 2 other people had broken into Travis's house while she was there and killed him in front of her, but left her alive, which leaves detectives with the obvious question of, well, why wouldn't you have called the police after they left? It just made absolutely no sense. But Jodi, of course, had 2 explanations for this. Her first explanation was that they threatened to kill her and her family, and she was worried for their safety. And the other reason was that she was embarrassed for leaving Travis, and that she didn't want to call the police because she was worried that she would look like a bad friend for just leaving him to fight for his life like that. Which, of course, nobody believed either one of these stories. On July 8, 2008, Jodi was indicted for the first-degree murder of Travis Alexander. And while waiting for the trial to start, she begins doing media interviews about her innocence and how she is going to prove to the world that she didn't do this. This case began to quickly gain a lot of publicity, and people all over the world were following it very closely. It took 5 years for both sides to get ready for trial. And during this time, Jodi did a 48 hours interview and had a completely new story to tell.
2 hours into the interview that I asked her, is there anything else you want to talk about? And then she sighed, sat back in her chair, and told me this most elaborate tale. I almost fell off my seat.
Boy, this is really hard. I'm trying to think if I want to say this or not. There's a lot of evidence that places me at Travis's house, and there's a reason for that. And that reason is that that I did see Travis the day that he passed away. A lot of things happened that day. I almost lost my life as well.
She was so willing to share this information that could be incredibly detrimental to her case.
There was an argument among some people, 2 individuals, that one wanted to take my life. And
she told me that the intruder actually put a gun to her head and pulled the trigger.
The guy with the gun was standing near me, and I just remember holding my head and closing my eyes. He pulled the trigger, and nothing happened, just a click.
Subsequently, we found out that in her interrogation with Detective Esteban Flores for the Mesa PD, that the intruder who held the gun to her head took her information and let her go.
He grabbed my wallet, and he was looking through it.
What's interesting is that Jodi never told Detective Flores that the intruder tried to kill her.
He said, "You need to leave, and don't you call anybody, and don't you say anything, You act like anything happened.
Completely different account of what actually happened. So it hit me that if she could so effortlessly make up this lie in front of me, what else is she capable of?
But thank you very much.
Oh, thanks.
As you can see in all of Jodi's interviews, she has this way of speaking that almost makes you want to feel bad for her and believe her stories. She's so soft-spoken and tries to sound logical by giving you so much information to try to help you paint a picture in your head of what she's saying. It's sick, and it's like master manipulator tactics right there. So she sticks to her news story, that she had nothing to do with the murder of Travis. In interviews, she talks about how good of a guy Travis was and how they never really fought and how he wouldn't hurt a fly. But then all of this changes yet again by the time she gets to court. On January 2nd, 2013, her trial began and it was televised. People from all over tuned in and they were following every single second of it. People were extremely angry with Jodi, and she quickly became one of the most hated people in the United States. When the trial began, the prosecution's argument was very clear. The prosecutor was Juan Martinez, who was one of the first on the scene back when it happened. He saw firsthand the destruction that Jodi had caused, and it became a very personal thing for him. There were many instances in the trial when he would get very frustrated with Jodi as well.
This is a very small closet, isn't it?
No, it's bigger than the cell that I live in.
It's bigger than what?
It's bigger than the cell that I live in. It's not a small closet.
Ma'am, we don't want to know where you live in. Do you understand that?
I'm just using that as reference. It's
Ma'am,
not small.
Do you understand? Did I ask you where you were living?
No.
We're clear, right? We do not want to know where you're living right now. You understand that?
Okay, sorry.
No need to be. Take that attitude that... Is there an issue with you with answering the questions as they're posed?
Sometimes, but I'm trying to answer them the best I can.
So is it an attitude issue with you then?
Objection argumentative, Your Honor. Move to strike.
The prosecution was seeking the death penalty because that is what Travis's family wanted. His siblings all wanted to see Jodi die for what she did to their brother. The state was going with the argument that this crime was premeditated and that she killed him in cold blood. The medical examiner was subpoenaed and gave testimony as to the condition of which Travis's body was in. He stated that the stab wounds were so extremely deep and inflicted with major force, and due to the amount of decomp his body had gone through, it was almost impossible to tell on the body alone if Travis was dead before he was shot in the head. The medical examiner also stated that the cause of death was from excessive blood loss, and that Travis had many defensive wounds on his palms of his hands and his fingers, indicating that Travis was the one being attacked, as opposed to Jodi being the victim in all of this. And this comes into play later when Jodi changes her story yet again. There has always been a lot of speculation on the series of events that transpired in this crime. This is the last photo of Travis, and it was taken moments before he was killed. It's hard to tell exactly what's going on in this moment. Is he posing seductively for the camera, or is this a look of fear due to Jodi pointing the gun at him or maybe holding a knife? Nobody really knows. Also, looking at the crime scene photos, there is so much blood outside of the shower and the bathroom. We know Travis was ultimately found in the fetal position on the shower floor, so my question is, if this photo was taken of him moments before the attack, how did all of the blood get outside of the shower and into the hallway? Did she stab him in the shower and then he tried to run out, but she dragged him back into the shower to wash him off? I don't know. I'm pretty confused about that. Let me know what you think as we go. A lot of the photos that were recovered from the SD card look like they are accidental photos as well. Almost like she either dropped the camera and it continued taking photos, or she had the camera set on a timer and a continuous shoot mode. Some of the photos are of the ceiling and some are a little bit harder to make out, but others weren't, and you could clearly see Travis bleeding out on the floor. So in support of the prosecution's case against Jodi, they brought in Mimi Hall, Travis's friend that he was supposed to go to Cancun with. Mimi testified that she had always felt safe with Travis and that he was never aggressive at all. The biggest evidence that the state had was obviously the physical evidence at the crime scene and the condition of which his body was in. They even showed all of these extremely graphic images to the courtroom. And guys, these photos are very, very gruesome. Many of Travis's family and friends had to close their eyes and some even left the courtroom. I can only imagine the kind of trauma that put them through. The medical examiner confirmed that Travis was stabbed, that his throat was slit, and that he was shot, which at the end just proved that this attack was way too callous to even be considered self-inflicted. The state also talked about how the gun that was stolen from Jodi's grandparents was also the same caliber that was used to kill Travis. Oh, and by the way, this gun was never recovered. So it was never officially proven if it was the same gun that was stolen from her grandparents' house or not, but I'm saying that it's probably too big of a coincidence to explain away. Just my opinion. Jodi fans, don't come for me. Another big piece of evidence that the state had was Jodi's personal diary. When they went through it, they looked for anything at all that would lead them to believe that Travis was violent or physically assaulted Jodi. Instead, it was filled with pages about how much Jodi loved and adored Travis and how great her life was with him. A few days into the trial, it's finally time for Jodi's defense. And shockingly, Jodi got up to testify herself, which is so rare. And when she gets up there, she had yet another story to tell. She then admits that she did kill Travis, but that it was in self-defense.
2 years later, in 2010, yet another story. Yes, she says she did kill Travis Alexander, but it was self-defense. Her lawyer is making the case for
Jodi believed that Travis was going to kill her. Travis left Jodi no other option but to defend herself.
As Arias tells it, it all started with those naked pictures. She testified that while she and Alexander were snapping photos, she dropped the camera and Alexander got incredibly angry. So this time, she says, she grabbed the gun she knew Alexander kept in his closet.
I grabbed the gun. I ran out of the closet. He was chasing me. I turned around and we were in the middle of the bathroom. I pointed it at him with both of my hands. I thought that would stop him. If someone were pointing a gun at me, I would stop. But he just kept running. He got like a linebacker. He got kind of low and grabbed my waist. But before he did that, as he was lunging at me, the gun went off. I didn't mean to shoot him.
So obviously a big change of events yet again. Jodi's defense had the most difficult task of trying to defend her crazy self, and I can only imagine how her defense team was feeling trying to come up with a way to defend a person claiming self-defense when she absolutely had no injuries. How would they explain the 27 or 29 stab wounds, nearly cutting Travis's head off, and a gunshot wound to the head? They knew that this was a shot in the dark. And not only that, they were having a really hard time with Jodi as well. Her main defense attorney actually tried to even get off the case, but the request was denied by the judge. He had stated that all of the meetings with Jodi were extremely manipulative and that she treated him horribly. Not only that, but Jodi had allegedly tried to make sexual advances on him as well and tried to seduce him. He stated that it was an absolute nightmare to work with her. They knew that they were not going to be able to prove her innocence, so their goal was just to try to keep her from getting the death penalty. All of them were really desperate at this point, but especially Jodi, and she was going to do and say whatever she could to make herself seem innocent, even if that meant smearing Travis's name in the mud when he wasn't there to defend himself. Jodi not only claimed that Travis would physically and emotionally torment and hurt her, but she also says that he was a pede and had an interest in little boys, which really is just as low as it could possibly get. The proof they showed in trial was actually a recorded call from when she and Travis were having phone sex. And yes, they played this entire uncomfortable conversation in the courtroom. At one point in this exchange, Travis says, "Oh, you just sounded like a 12-year-old girl having her first, big O." Which, yes, that is a super weird and creepy thing to say to somebody. Because first of all, why are you talking about a 12-year-old girl, having the big O that way? It's just weird. And if you want, you can find this entire exchange out on YouTube. Just search Jodi Arias and Travis's phone call. I'm not going to play it here. It's really creepy and I'll probably get flagged right away. But I will say that it is super creepy. And that is a super weird thing to say. So it was also very understandable why people questioned it, because it's just totally inappropriate and wrong. And I mean, it is very damning to their claims. But just because he said something really weird in this moment does not necessarily justify the brutal and heinous attack committed on him. It also had absolutely nothing to do with the murder whatsoever. And other than this one very uncomfortable statement, there is absolutely no evidence of Travis acting or partaking in any sort of activity with children or little boys. But Jodi took it another step further and even claimed that at one time she found child material on his computer. But again, after the investigation, there was no proof of this at all. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not making any excuses for anybody who does, in fact, participate in those kinds of activities or have material on their computer. But when it's coming from the mouth of Jodi Arias, I'm going to take it with a pound of salt because she cannot be trusted at all. She made asinine claims about Travis to make him seem like this disgusting sexual deviant, this predator, and told so many graphic stories about their sexual relationship in court, basically accusing him of assaulting her sexually, which just made no sense at all because for years before that, she was always talking about how they never fought, how great of a guy he is, how he would never hurt her. But now that the clock is ticking, she's doing everything she can to try and keep those walls from closing in on her. It truly shows her character and what kind of person she is. And like her father stated early on, she is not the type of person to take responsibility for her actions. And we literally saw this throughout this entire circumstance and trial. When Jodi took the witness stand to testify, it was rare and it shocked everyone. But what was even more shocking is that Jodi was on the stand for 8 days straight. She described all of the emotional and physical torment that she suffered at the hands of Travis and how it got to just be too much for her, so she finally snapped. But no matter how much she tried to spin her story, the state was able to poke holes in it and point out all of the contradictions and lies. But she remained confident and never wavered and never for a second thought that she would be convicted. And she overtly tried to make herself seem like she was a victim of some sort of domestic dispute. Once this portion of the trial concluded and closing arguments were made from both sides, the jury went back for deliberation. They deliberated for 4 days, and when they came back with their verdict, they were totally split on premeditation.
This case has court watchers riveted, not only because of the sheer brutality of it, but also because of the couple's salacious sexual relationship. They videotaped themselves having sex and took provocative photos. On the day of the murder, June 4th, 2008, the two snapped naked photos of each other at Alexander's home right before the killing.
Clearly, absolutely shocked, but Travis's family and friends were so happy. After the trial, a huge crowd gathered outside of the courthouse, and of course, Jodi gets another interview in before heading off to her cell, and this video is gold.
You said today you want to give Travis's family closure. You know they want you dead, so why don't you give them that closure?
What do you mean by that? Why don't I kill myself? Is that what you're asking?
No, why don't you accept the fate of the death penalty if you know that's what they want? If you truly care about their closure.
I've caused them a lot of pain. I've caused my family a lot of pain. And I think that by asking for death, I'm only going to cause more pain to my family.
Why didn't you apologize to them?
I did apologize to them.
You never said, I'm sorry.
I said that I'm sorry, that I'll never be able to make up for what I did, and that I can never replace their loss.
But you didn't use the word, I'm sorry.
Well, then I'm sorry I didn't say that, because certainly I am sorry. I think in a sense, the words I'm sorry just seem meaningless, especially since nobody believes what I'm saying anyway.
You said it right there, no one believes a word out of your mouth. Why do you keep talking?
Because I know that I've lied before. That doesn't mean that I'm a liar by definition, by character.
In your final statement today, you talked about all sorts of things you might be able to do in prison. Teach other prisoners Spanish, donate more of your hair, start a recycling program. Do you know how trivial that sounded in the face of what you did?
Well, there isn't a whole lot that I know about prison. And these are only things that I'm able to ascertain from having never been there. So I believe that when I get there, I will find better ways to contribute and pay back.
But can't you grow out your hair on death row and donate it?
Yeah, it'll be less wigs if I get executed. I mean, I know that sounds trivial.
It does.
I didn't know that you were a hater when you came to interview me.
The next phase of this trial was to determine if Jodi was to get the death penalty or not. In court, she got to stand up and tell everyone why she thinks that she deserves to keep living and not be executed by the state. She talked about how she could be useful in prison, about how she could start a recycling program, teach others how to read and write, be a mentor for those who have gone through domestic disputes in the past, and even about how she could grow her hair more to donate to Locks of Love. I don't really think a wig is necessarily going to save you from execution. Maybe, but I don't think so, girl. I don't think so. And just when we thought she couldn't get any more crazy in all of this, she brought out a shirt that said Survivor on it. And she talked about how you can purchase one to help support charities that assist women in domestic situations. Clearly trying to show the jury this poor me, I'm a victim. It's bananas.
Additionally, I've designed a t-shirt. This is the t-shirt, of which 100% of the proceeds go to support nonprofit organizations which also assist other victims of domestic violence. Some people may not believe that I am a survivor of domestic violence. They're entitled to their opinion. I'm supporting this cause because it's very, very important to me.
So we know that when juries vote on the death penalty, it has to be unanimous. But when they came back from deliberations, 8 of them voted for the death penalty and 4 of them voted for life in prison, which caused a mistrial for this portion of the trial. So in February of 2014, court resumed and they tried the same proceedings from May 2013. On February 25th, 2014, the jury was hung once again, this time 11 for the death penalty and 1 for life in prison. Another mistrial was declared, and in the state of Arizona, you can only retry twice for the death penalty. So now they had to sentence her to life in prison. Jodi's attorney filed a motion to dismiss all of her charges and alleged that there had been misconduct in the trial. The motion stated that a computer forensic expert hired by the defense discovered that thousands of files, mostly containing child material, had been deleted off Travis's computer while in the custody of Mesa's police department. And actually, there was no real evidence of this whatsoever. It was just one last shot in the dark for Jodi to try to get a reduced sentence. Finally, in April 2015, almost 7 years after Travis's death, the judge sentenced Jodi Arias to her natural life in prison without the possibility of parole. She was sent to spend the rest of her life in Perryville Prison in Arizona, which is a max security women's prison. Jodi spent 2 years in max custody in an 8x6 cell for 23 hours a day. She was finally able to be moved to a less confined environment where she was allowed to have a cellmate and interact with other inmates. Jodi claims that she was harassed by other women in the jail. In 2017, Jodi filed a civil lawsuit against her defense team stating that they disclosed private and personal information for financial gain in a tell-all book that was released about her case. Juan Martinez, the prosecutor, ended up being terminated from the DA's office in 2020 following a 2018 scandal in which he was accused of inappropriate conduct towards female clerks. He agreed to be disbarred in an ethics case for not only this, but also leaking the identity of a juror in the Jodi Arias case. And of course, Jodi jumped on this for a chance to file an appeal, stating that they had the same misconduct towards her as well. However, the state's highest court denied Jodi's request for review without providing an explanation for the decision. Now here's where it gets interesting. In a new Lifetime special, Jodi Arias' former cellmates, Tracy Brown and Donovan Bering, are speaking out about their relationship with Jodi. The network spoke with Donovan about her time in prison getting to know Jodi, what her impressions were of the convicted murderer, and whether she thinks Jodi is guilty or if it really was self-defense. And Donovan said, there was no self-defense. She is a cold-blooded killer and she would do it again. Donovan went on to say that she and Tracy were cellmates of Jodi's for 6 months and that their friendship lasted until around 2016. Donovan, along with her now wife, Tracy Brown, who also was an inmate at the jail, immediately bonded with Jodi apparently. They said she appeared as a sweet cellmate with the voice of an angel who yearned to make friends. They even called her Songbird because she sang so beautifully. Which, guys, I'm just going to say, and I'll probably add this in later, she entered like a jail singing contest thing, and a songbird she is not. Not saying I can carry a tune. I am like as tone deaf as they come, but I will say this. Voice of an angel? No. Donovan said that it was kind of strange because they just all pulled to each other. That Jodi was this very quiet, soft-spoken, articulate artist who drew a lot. That she was very easy to talk to and made you feel comfortable quickly. She says that they had no idea that she was actually being accused of murder. And Donovan stated that Jodi used her sexuality to get things from other inmates. She stated that she often flirted with the guards and had no problem talking to the male guards, that she was just very sexual. Donovan said the three of them became so close that she and Tracy even allowed Jodi to tattoo them in prison. Jodi gave Tracy 6 tattoos and gave Donovan 4 tattoos, using a rubber band, a staple, and a pencil, along with a drop of shampoo, mascara, and baby powder. She even signed her name on them as well. And during this, Jodi used the 2 for protection from other inmates who tried to target her, and Jodi was terrified of these inmates.
Now, 12 years later, Arias' former cellmates are speaking out. Donovan Baring and Tracy Brown appear in a new Lifetime documentary, Jodi Arias, Cellmate Secrets.
She got away with things that other inmates didn't get away with. She was a very attractive young girl who liked to flirt, and the male guards just ate it up.
They say Arias even took part in a jailhouse striptease, which was recreated for the TV special.
Jodi stood up, took her clothes off, and danced with me.
Tracy was incarcerated for kidnapping. Donovan was charged with accessory to arson. Both ex-cellmates now have permanent reminders of their time in jail with Jodi Arias. Tattoos personally inked and signed by the notorious killer, who made the tattoos using mascara and lead from a pencil, which she sharpened into a needle. Arias also tattooed this delicate crystal on Tracy's chest, but Tracy has since tattooed a butterfly over the original artwork.
So Jodi had done such a good job at molding these 2 people into exactly who she wanted them to be, and people who would do anything that she asked. So much so that one day Jodi asked if she could shave Donovan's hair off. Donovan said yes, but it's a prison, so there aren't just hair clippers accessible. So Jodi covered Donovan's hair in Nair and removed it that way. It didn't take long for them to realize that there was one set of rules for Jodi and another set of rules for everybody else also. It seemed as if the guards were way more lenient with Jodi than others, often letting her get away with anything. All the while, the couple never had any idea what kind of media spectacle Jodi actually was on the outside of the jail. The only thing they knew was that her boyfriend Travis was murdered right in front of her, all according to Jodi. Donovan said that she had no reason to not believe Jodi, and that actually she even offered to do some social media work for Jodi once Donovan was released. She stated that Jodi wanted things posted on her social media platforms, like what she is currently reading, and she wanted her artwork displayed as well. So Donovan kept Jodi's Twitter updated, and Jodi would call her daily to tell Donovan what to post. Donovan was groomed to be Jodi's little puppet at this point, and was quickly made to become the public's voice for Jodi. Jodi would send Donovan letters of how exactly to respond to all of the things that were being said about Jodi online from the haters, and even from Travis's family members. Donovan said that Jodi would call anywhere between 3 to 10 times a day, and stated that it was almost a full-time job trying to keep up with Jodi's social media. She also stated that she actually started to communicate with Jodi's mom, Sandy Arias, during this time, which shed a lot of light on the true person that Jodi was. And it was Donovan's relationship with her mother, Sandy, that actually opened her eyes to Jodi's true nature. Donovan stated that when she started speaking to her mom more than Jodi, she started to see how stuff just wasn't adding up, such as her relationships and how her parents treated her, and how she didn't care about anything or anyone but herself. And Donovan said, "You crossed her in any way and you suffered. Jodi doesn't know what a true friend is." There was one time that Donovan refused to post horrible things about Jodi's family, where Jodi wanted to publicly accuse her father of hurting her when she was a child. And in return for not posting this, Jodi got very angry and lashed out at Donovan. At this point, Donovan decided to change all of the passwords on Twitter, on everything, to essentially lock her out of the account and keep her from finding somebody else to post these horrible accusations about her parents. And this brought out the wrath in Jodi. And a few days later, Jodi called Donovan back apologizing and asking her to continue posting on Twitter for her. Being the voice of Jodi brought out a lot of hate for Donovan. One man even threatened her with a knife and said that they were going to do what Jodi did to Travis. But Donovan still showed up every day to Jodi's trial. And this is where Donovan's opinion about Jodi really began to change, and she learned that Jodi was the one who killed Travis. This trial showed Donovan the brutality of Travis's murder and the depths that Jodi would go to save herself. And this is when she had a phone call with Jodi to let her know that she was no longer supporting her. At one point, it ended up coming out that Jodi's father allegedly had hurt Jodi during their childhood. And as you can imagine, his life was quickly turned upside down and became very, very tumultuous. So Donovan decided to take a polygraph test to prove that Jodi was lying about this. But 6 days after those past polygraph tests were released, Jodi's father took his own life, according to Donovan. The mountain of Jodi's lies and deceit had finally smothered her two most faithful supporters. Jodi is apparently having a very hard time in prison now, but honestly, good. She deserves everything that she has coming to her. She stated that life in prison is actually a worse sentence than the death penalty, and that if she could take her own life, she would. She spends her days creating art to sell on her online website, where prints run anywhere from $28 to $50, and original art created by her in prison is anywhere between $1,500 to $5,000. And get this, people are actually buying it. Jodi is making thousands of dollars a month by selling art that she's continuing to make from behind bars. She's been relying on a loyal group of friends who are running her website, and the website offers her original artwork, noting authenticity in the form of Jodi's right thumbprint on the painting. It is weird. It also offers her survivor shirts as well as free Jodi wristbands. Like, I can't with the narcissism. I just can't. It's unbelievable. The story of Jodi Arias is truly insane, and I was fuming with anger the entire time I was researching this case. I'm just so happy that Travis's family finally got justice and that this monster is locked away forever. My heart hurts for all of Travis's friends and family that had to actually sit there through the trial and see and hear all of this graphic evidence that they had. Travis was loved by so many people, and he had an army show up for him in the courtroom. But there is still a lot of division out there. There are large communities and groups who still advocate for Jodi's innocence, saying that she not only is innocent, but if you dare cross her or suggest that she is guilty, they start coming after you. So Jodi stands, leave me alone, I'm just sharing my opinion, but it really begs the question. This case is so popular. Everybody is pretty much familiar with this case. It's a household name by now. Do you think Jodi is innocent? I'm curious. I'm really curious to see what the statistics are in these viewers. In you viewers, do you believe that she is innocent, or do you believe that she is guilty and this was premeditated? Take a quick second. Let me know in the comments. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you appreciated the case coverage. Please don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you do so really quick by hitting that subscribe button. That way you don't miss any future case videos. And please don't forget, give this video a thumbs up on your way out. It is a free way to support the channel and to show your appreciation. All right, guys, until the next one, I know it was a crazy one, so thanks for sticking with me. Until the next one, stay safe. Bye.